What is up, everybody? Good morning and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to World of Warcraft. Today we are going to do a route walkthrough of Ecodome Aldani. I've done this dungeon a ton of times this season just by the farming trinkets and everything like that. So this is something that I've used in a ton of pug groups and it has worked pretty much every time. So let's get right into it. So the big thing about this dungeon is that it is very easy if you just do any sort of mechanics. So getting into the dungeon right here, and we'll explain what those mechanics are, what you need to watch out for, that sort of thing. So right here, we're going to go into the dungeon, and we are going to hug the left-hand side. We're going to jump over the little banister and get this big gather right here. The only thing that really is concerning about this pull is just these mites. They jump all over the place, so if you can stand in sort of close to melee just to make sure that you can get some good melee cleave onto these mites, that is good. Stops for any of the gorge casts are also great, but this pull should pretty much melt. You're popping lust on this. Most groups that I've been with will absolutely delete this, and there's not a whole lot to talk about there. We'll go into the second pull. It's going to be very, very similar to the first. The only difference is the second Ravenous Destroyer. But the only thing that you really need to worry about those is the Volatile Ejection. It's just this big blue beam that shows up on the ground. Just make sure that you plant. Me personally, I know some people like to move away from other people and they like to take that initiative. Me, especially if I'm playing caster, I like to just plant. Other people can move away from me. It's better to just plant, have someone know that you were going to stand still, and they can move out with, you know, a couple feet and avoid the mechanic. I think that's always just the better thing to do. Instead of playing footsie with someone, both of you are moving, then both of you move to the same spot. It just gets really messy. So if you get that, if you're stacked on top of another person, then, you know, pick a direction you can move, but, you know, use your best judgment. But I like to plant with that and let the other person move away from me. First boss, you shouldn't really have any issues with this. The only things that I've seen go wrong are when people don't stack, because the ads will just live forever. So go ahead and stack up. You can always run the circles out a little later. You have tons of time to do that, so don't really worry about that at all. And the other thing is the tank leaving melee of the boss. The boss does have a pretty big hitbox, so it's pretty hard to do, but I have seen a couple tanks run out to try and get the mites, and the boss just melee someone, and that is no good. So the next pull, once we kill the first boss, is going to be a little bit of a longer gather, and there are a couple long gathers in this dungeon. But we're going to grab the two homies at the start of this gate, grab the Sentinel, the 3-pack on the right, and then the Ritualist over here. If you're playing a ranged DPS, let the tank tag this pull just so that the phase blades are on them, and help him out by just kicking this Ritualist. He likes to just sit there and cast. The tank is ideally going to gather a little bit closer to over here. So if you have a ranged kick, go ahead and use that on the Ritualist, but these phase blades will teleport to you if you were the first person to aggro the pull, so just be careful with that. The other thing to be, actually two other things to be concerned about in this pull. These Rune Stalkers are things that we're gonna pull a ton of them for the rest of the dungeon, but they will have this pink beam called Warp. You cannot get hit by it. Don't get hit by it. Prioritize that over everything else. It is a one-shot on pretty much every key level. It hurts. So if you are between casting your last spell or dodging this cast, always dodge the cast. It's just kind of non-negotiable. I've had groups where I get like, it's a pretty much a perfect run, but the only thing that is killing people are the warp cast. People just get one shot. It's just super annoying. So just be aware of that. The other thing to mention, if you are playing tank, these overcharged sentinels will do this frontal. It tracks your movement, so you can spin it around if you really want to. But as a tank, no matter what direction you're facing, even if you're facing a full group of people and that frontal starts casting, I would probably say don't move unless you're going to move directly through the boss. I see a lot of tanks do a little bit of a, like they spin it in a 360 or they get really messy with it. A lot of the times I just like to plant. If you don't have the foresight of like pointing it away from your group and you realize that you've made a mistake, go ahead and either run through the mob and just flip it a complete 180 because that'll be quicker than anyone else can move, or just plant and let everyone move out. But pick one of the two. Don't spin it once to one side and then back once you see people moving. It just gets really, really messy. So pick the 180 or stand still. Let everyone else get out of it. Same thing goes with this pull. Dodge the warp cast, get the overcharged sentinel. This is going to feel like a very, very long gather for tanks, so we're going to cut through this middle part here. Sometimes this this patrol will be in a bad spot, so it's a little bit sketchy, so you can just wait. but go ahead and drag this all the way to the Ritualist, and same thing goes here. You're going to have a ton of space in this little clearing. So if you're a ranged DPS or have a ranged kick, go ahead and let the Phase Blades get aggroed onto the tank, and then go ahead and kick the Ritualist to help the tank gather. Similar thing with this pull, we're going to do 3 Stalkers, so we're going to have 3 Warp casts to dodge. This pull is going to be pretty annoying just because the Warp Stalkers get really, really far away from melee, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it unless you have Ursals or something like that to keep them in a little bit longer. But yeah, same thing. Kick the Ritualist whenever possible. The Phase Blades shouldn't really do a whole lot to your group, and then the Rune Stalkers just need to die eventually. And again, another similar pull here, we're going to have to deal with one Runestalker. We're going to do the Sentinels that we did earlier. So again, that frontal, just be aware of that. And then once this pull dies, that's when the boss will spawn. The one thing that I will mention on this boss is that you want to, or I guess 2 things. You want to make a Venn diagram with the spears. So go ahead and just overlap those circles, but make sure nobody is taking 2 stacks of the spear because the damage ramps up pretty quickly. A lot of people do struggle with that. And then once the intermission phase is happening and you are getting the lines on you and you're trying to get the Runestalkers to run through the boss to break the shield, go ahead and just drop your line and then get out. You don't need to, as soon as the line goes on you, you don't need to be all stacked up waiting for those lines to happen. There will be some kind of order to it. So the first person that gets the line, they can move into position, let the line hit, get close by but not too close, and then when it's your turn, just move in, let the Runestalker hit the boss, and then get out if there's someone after you. This boss is, the only reason I've seen people wipe on this boss is that they take all 3 charges, and the healer's just not able to keep people up. So just be aware of that. Once the boss dies, we'll go over here to pull 9. If you don't do the Runestalker with this pack, it's really, really easy. Even if you do the Runestalker with this pack, it is still pretty easy. So another Ritualist, same sort of thing. The one thing I will mention is that this pack can hit the tank pretty hard. I've seen some slightly undergeared tanks have a little bit of trouble here, but should go down no different than any of these other pulls. Once we go through the gate over here, we're going to hug the left-hand side over by the rocks over here, and then we're going to cut through the middle. We're going to completely ignore the other little spire thing over here, run over here and grab the Creeper, the Pack Speaker, and the Runestalker Phase Blade Farstalker. The one thing I will mention about this pull is, again, dodging that pink beam. The Creepers don't really do anything, just dodge their giant like stone thing on the ground. I don't know what to call that. Their burrow. And then the Pack Speaker is really the only thing that you need to worry about in any of these pulls. They do have this unavoidable cast called Erratic Ritual. So this will just, this will just do damage. But this should be really the only thing that your healer has to fully expend resources to heal on these fights. It's uninterruptible. It's unavoidable. You just have to take the damage. Just make sure that you are being healable by not getting hit by anything else. I like to run over here. So there's this little like crack in the wall right here. This pack is a lot further over than it appears in this route, but you can run over here and grab the Creeper on this side because he is going to be pretty far away, and then drag him into the middle pull and the Spire pull over here. This should be a pretty long gather actually. The way that the MDT shows this, it's going to be a lot wider spread. So any range kicks on the Ritualists will be very, very helpful. You can usually gather right around here. That's usually where it happens. You can go ahead and grab the Spire and use it whenever you want. And then we can get the Ritualist Elemental Pack Speaker here with the Waste Creeper. The reason we're doing this is because we don't want a whole lot going on while we're dealing with these Pack Speakers. Again, they have that unavoidable Erratic Ritual cast, so go ahead and take it easy right here. And then we will do a little bit of a longer gather. Grab the Runestalker, grab the Creeper in the middle, clear this whole middle area, and then grab the 2 Phase Blades over here. And that should be a pretty chill pull as well. Not a whole lot to worry about except for that pink beam. Some of these gathers are going to be, this is not necessarily going to go exactly the way everyone, there's a lot of wiggle room as far as routes here. So sometimes I'll pull these Runestalkers with this middle pack. Sometimes I'll pull the Creeper into the Phase Blades into this 3-pack. So there's a lot of wiggle room, but a lot of the pulls should be pretty similar on difficulty. So even if you mess it up or you pull extra or something like that, you just kind of cut out like a Creeper or something like that and should be all good. The other thing that I do want to mention is that if you're gathering these Creepers or even sometimes this Creeper and dragging them over, just be very, very careful about this burrowing Creeper here and these giant ones over here. They do so much damage, they're super annoying, and if you do any kind of substantial pull with them, you are more than likely going to lose 1 or 2 people. So they show up as this burrow on the ground. Just make sure that you don't pull these guys. They are absolutely terrible. So yeah, we're going to go into this last pull. Again, phase blades, creepers don't really do anything. And then the only thing that we're really focusing and worrying about is the pack speaker, because we're going to try and interrupt all of the other ritualist casts that we can. But yeah, these pulls will be a lot of similar mobs. Just kick what you can, stop what you can, and then pop a defensive when the pack speaker uses that erratic ritual, and you should be all good. Last boss, very, very easy. A lot of people do struggle with it though. Something that I have noticed is that people will sometimes overcommit to grabbing souls. In the intermission phase where he's got like the 2 sides and there's the 2 cones on either side of him, only 1 soul of yours is ever going to be in danger at one time. So if the frontal is on one of the souls, you can go ahead and pick that one up and you'll know the other 2 are safe. When the triangle shifts, the other one is going to be in danger, so you can go ahead and save that one, and then the triangle shifts and then save the last one. That's how you min-max, and you just get 10% buff, 20% buff, 30% buff, and you maximize the duration on all of those. So just keep that in mind. When that intermission phase happens, there's never going to be 2 souls that are in danger, so there's no need to rush. Always just focus on the one that is in danger first, and that is Ecodome Eldani. So I'll go ahead and finish up the last of these routes. We're going to go through all these things that I've been using for this first week and a half of Mythic Plus, and we'll go from there. So leave a like on the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you in the next one.